My name is Nancy Chin Wagner. I am the national chairperson for the U.S. Council for Spirit of the Game. And I would like to welcome all of you here and everyone from different countries. And thank you for joining us, because the future is about youth. It is about the young people. We are here in Spirit of the Game. And thank you for joining us for our first Impact America series. And we have all of August out there. We have a couple of people that are online right now that are hosting the next few Tuesdays at your time. And it's going to be every Tuesday for the next few months on different topics. And one of the things I want to say is, with Jessica and Helga doing this, is that none of us are victims in the environment, in society, in the US, youth or adults. We don't need to play that fear card. And we have today an opportunity. We're going to focus on youth, but the opportunity is you will be taking charge of your own life. And Helga and Jessica will show you how through what they're going to be speaking about. And Helga, I read your information, and I'm going to put Helga's website there so everyone who's here can read up on Helga, and also for Jessica on their experience. My God, they're like experts. I mean, if you have children, or if you know people with children that could use this help, she's an NLP, Helga. They're both advocates for youth. That's all I can say. Let's put it in a nutshell, all right? You can go on their website and see everything. They're amazing. So the main thing is put your information here and we'll get that going. And Ishmael, thank you for calling in from Bangladesh. I really appreciate that. And okay, so I will hand it over to Jessica. And Jessica, you can start, but I just want people to know that we are online and being recorded. And we will mute you so that they can do their presentation, and they will unmute you when they're ready for Q&A. All right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And I'll start by saying that this is an interactive session. We will be using breakout rooms for you to work with the information we're giving you. We expect participation, hand raising, and we want you guys to speak. So I'll start by introducing myself. Today, I'm Dr. Jessica Ashe. My doctoral degree is in literacy and second language studies, which means I work primarily in the field of English as a second or third language. And I have taught that in many countries. My MBA focus was marketing. My first MA was in European languages and literatures. What that meant is I taught French at the University of Hawaii. And my BA is in cultural anthropology. And I will let Helga Marín tell you a little bit about herself. Helga?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And it's just such a joy to see people from all over the world. It's great. Yes, my name is Helga Marín, and as you can hear, I have a little bit of accent, and that's because I'm from Iceland. I lived in many countries, so I kind of learned my English in Dubai, and there's a lot of Indian people, so I might have a little Indian accent. So anyway, my background is that I've been teaching self-empowerment for the last probably 25, 30 years. And I've worked with many different types of groups. You know, I've worked with companies and hospitals, and I've worked with organizations and people who've been laid off work. So I've kind of just chosen different groups to work with throughout the years. But the last 6-7 years, I focused on youth, and I'll just say that it came to me as a calling, that I felt that the youth wasn't really getting what they needed in school. So I had this mission on bringing self-empowerment and helping teenagers to discover who they are and their potential, strengthen them so that they are ready to go into life and achieve their dreams. So that's kind of my goal. And I have, at the moment, I'm teaching both teenagers, and I'm also teaching teachers. So I'm teaching teachers to support teenagers. And I focus mainly on intrinsic motivation. So I'm teaching teachers how to use intrinsic motivation while they're teaching. And it's been quite a journey and very rewarding. And I have to say that teaching the teenagers is absolutely my favorite thing in the world. I love it. And as you can see, like I have a few degrees in psychology, health science, positive psychology, NLP, and I'm also a hypnotherapist. So I work with trauma patients or traumas to release that. Yeah, and I think that's enough about me. So over to you, Jessica.
Wonderful, Helga. So the question is, why are we here? So to start with, 85% of Americans are unhappy at work. And beyond that, developing countries experience high amounts of unemployment. And it's therefore important to figure out what your strengths and inner capabilities are so that you can find a problem in your community and then solve it and figure out how much profit you should make in your region for solving that local problem. Every time I move the cursor, it does something different. And unfortunately, anxiety and depression are on the rise. And that's what this graph is showing. And we don't have to live that way. So, and the point here is that a lot of people choose a high-paying job rather than what fits their character because there's a lot of pressure. Society gives us these ideas about what we're supposed to do, and then that doesn't really fit with what we think we want to do or what's available in our area. I also see a lot of students come to college with pressures from their parents. You will study this. And I'm often saying that you can't just make a happy doctor. Humans don't work that way. And so we have to not only deprogram ourselves from what society or someone else may have told us we're supposed to do, but also find comfort in navigating that space, especially if it's your parent. And if you're going to try to go against what your parent says, you have to have a really strong case for why that's the right thing for you. And we want to empower you in this way. So why do I talked about this just a minute ago, why we pick a career based on the salary rather than what fits their character and goals. And Helga was talking a minute ago about intrinsic motivation, and money is an extrinsic motivator, which is the opposite. Means money is not inherent to whatever it is you do that makes you like it. It is external to that. And so in some cases, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're still not going to be happy because it's not fulfilling what you need inside of you. And Helga, do you want to talk about the next two?
Yes. So it's important to think about why we are picking careers that don't suit us, because if you look at the statistic, that 85% are not happy at work. So that must mean something. That must mean that people are not choosing jobs that are in line with their character, their strengths, and their interest. And so that was kind of our main thinking here today, is that we will give you some tools that you can apply in your own life, but you can also apply if you are working with teenagers. And this is something I've worked when I go into schools. This is what I work with my teenager on. It's like helping them find who they are so that they can make choices for the future that are good for them. So I think I'm a very good example of someone who came out of school, and I was basically just broken. I think I started school with a pretty good confidence, but by the end, when I finished high school, I felt like I was nobody. So what I experienced, I came out of school, and I felt I wasn't really good in any subject. Nothing really interested me. And I asked myself, what kind of job would suit my character? And the answer was like, I don't know. I don't think anything will suit me, because I did not see that I had any special qualities, and it took many years to discover those. And it's just a shame that I think when I'm working with teenagers, I feel that they're in my shoes. Like when I left school, they're in exactly the same place. They have no idea what their potential is. And just like so many other young people do, I basically just picked something, and I said, well, that job is going to give me a good salary, so let's just do that. And so I studied. I mean, I spent, I think, 12, 15 years in a university, because, and I started on this career path of being a health professional and personal trainer, but I was always interested in the mind, and I kind of, life has a funny way of pushing us towards what we are meant to do. And I do truly believe that we all have a purpose, and that we are, our purpose is that we should do a job that is in line with our interests and our strengths. And through maybe the first 15 years, I slowly started to discover my worth and what I was capable of. And those strengths that I discovered when I was working, I never discovered them in school, never. And this is why it's so important to get this message across too, so teenagers can really feel empowered, and they feel that they know what they're going to do when they leave school. What's next? Now you can see the slides again.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll go back to the screen. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
I think we've all felt that way before.
Yeah. So there's another reason. So one reason I mentioned here is that we don't know what to do. Okay. The fourth reason that we thought of is that we are told, and maybe some of you have experienced this, that we're not good enough. And I put down here some famous people who were all told that they were not good enough, like Oprah Winfrey. She was told that she could never be a TV presenter. She was just really not good enough. And even Albert Einstein, he was told that, well, you are not smart enough, and you will never achieve anything in your life. And he failed so many subjects at school. Jordan, he was kicked out of his first basketball team, and he was said, you should focus on something else. You're never going to be good at basketball. And the Beatles and Elvis, both of them were kicked out of, they wanted to join the choir. Like, I know that Elvis, he wanted to join the choir at school, and he was not permitted to do that, because they said, you don't have any talent, so you should be focusing on something else. I mean, these are just few examples of people who have broken through, and who kind of just listened to their intuition, and they had a dream. And I know that many of us, we have a dream. So not all of us is lost like I am. Some of us really have a dream, and we know what we want. And, I want to encourage everyone to go for the dream, because letting someone else tell you what you can or what you can't do, that doesn't work. And I think these are the best proofs of people who have just broken through, the pressure from outside, that they're not good enough. Yeah.
Helping you to unlock your potential, it may sound like a generic phrase, but I know that inside of each of you and each of the youth who you are in charge of, there is something that, whether it was God or the universe put it there, that is intended to help our planet and our societies right now. And it may seem like a long and meandering path to get it from inside to out here on the earth But that's essentially why we're all here. And so we don't want you to let those talents go to waste, which then leads to depression and anxiety. And today's youth, the youth that you're in charge of, whether it's Nancy or Jeff or Beverly, this generation is more in tune with the need to do good than ever before. They're not content to just be an accountant in some random firm. Like they'll be an accountant for an NGO that is rescuing women from trafficking or something like that, because it fills a part of their soul. So this generation, more than any before, is in tune with what we're going to talk about. So to start all of that, this is a famous actress and this is a movie scene. And the question is, do you tell her that she has lettuce in her teeth? There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. And so I hopefully got a little chuckle inside of each of you, because either you think maybe being honest is more important or being polite. Can anybody speak about what they think that they would do? So this image and a few others are going to help you. And then we're going to get to an exercise about your deep inner intrinsic strengths. And Nancy and somebody else, let me know if anybody types anything about what they would do.
So I would tell her quietly, okay, Nancy. Yeah. So,
yeah.
so
Go ahead.
basically, the way you respond to that situation tells you a lot about your character strengths, which we're going to be talking about in a little while. So you can continue now, Jessica.
So, is it important to you to be brave? And when we ask these questions of ourselves, we can't just pick random things and say, yeah, I like to be brave. As Helga just cued you in, it has to be something that really is inside you. And there's no shame if being brave isn't the most important thing to you. It has to be genuine from what's inside of you. So does anybody out there see themselves as brave? If you do, feel free to type in the chat and tell us why you perceive that. Is being a loyal friend important to you? And it's going to get a little trickier than you think, because you can't say yes to everything. The last one is to get you started thinking is, are you curious? And do you love learning new things? These are examples of character strengths. And we're going to whittle it down to a few. So these are just some examples of being caring, being a thinker, being reflective. And Helga's going to take you through an exercise about this.
Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about what are character strengths, because for me, just learning about my own character strengths, it kind of changed my life. I started to realize that I had much more potential within me than I realized. And it's so rewarding to teach my students about character strengths, because they discover something within them that they thought was kind of normal, but then they realized that no, not everybody has those strengths. So character strengths in general are just character traits that are unique to us, and we have like a unique combination of different character strengths. And so just to give you an example of my own character strengths that I never discovered in school, like I mentioned before, is that I discovered when I started working that I was very creative. I mean, I really never had any chance in school to show my creativity. I also discovered that I was really good at negotiating, and I was good at getting people with me to team up with me, and I was really good at convincing people. So I was a great salesperson. These were all strengths that I never got to experience in school, and I had no idea that I had those. Now, I also discovered courage as a character strength that I have. And social intelligence was also like I have, it's easy for me to associate to others and feel compassion for others. And so these are all examples of character strengths like that makes us us. And I just want to give you a little example of one of my students, and he had absolutely no self-confidence. And I remember he came to my course, I was teaching them about this, and he said, you know, Helga, I'm worthless. Like I have nothing. Like I failed at school. I can't make friends. And you know, I'm just like worthless. And so I started testing him. And you know, in the end of our test, he actually told me that he had built a whole car out of scrap. And I was like, oh my God, did you build a car out of scrap? And you telling me that you don't have any strengths? I mean, that's amazing. And so we continued our test, and I found so many different qualities that he had, so many great qualities that he didn't appreciate because he just thought that that was nothing special. And by pointing it out to him that these were really special qualities, and this made him him, and he was, you know, he would have a great future in doing something with his hands or creating, or he was really good at logical thinking and problem solving and all these things. And just knowing that he had some worth, it changed his life actually. Maybe Jessica, what are your strengths? So you can give another example of strengths.
I want to start by empathizing with that young man because I think we all go through bad phases of our life where we don't feel valued. And so it's important to recognize your strengths, so because nobody can actually take them away. Even if somebody doesn't recognize them, that doesn't mean that they're not there. We have to love ourselves because sometimes nobody else might love us. But anyway, my strengths are love. And I say that from both the good sides and the bad side. I call it a core value. I've noticed that the worst times in my life were when I didn't feel love or didn't feel loving. And so, you know, the flip side of that is that when I am in that strength, I feel very confident. And then my second one, if it's not evident already, is continual growth for myself and everyone around me. Thanks for asking.
Can you move to the next slide? I just wanted to say that here's a list of 24 character strengths, and there are many, many more, but these are just examples. And I want to like tell you that some of the character strengths are inborn, like you're born with the curiosity or creativity or bravery or leadership skills. You could be born with certain character strengths, but the good news is that you can actually train any character strengths you want, and you can basically practice in your life. So we are not like molded from birth and we're not going to change. No, of course we believe that we can change ourselves. So I'm not the same person when I was 17 years old. I have grew some strengths and I have implemented new strengths. So you can change. And this exercise, so this is our first exercise now. I'd like you just to look at the picture here and pick 5 that you think are calling to you. So just think about what of those words here describes you the best. So write them in. So do you feel that creativity is you? Like what describes you as a person? Is it the social intelligence? Is it teamwork? Is it humility? Is it hope? What of these describes you the best? So pick 5 and put them in the chat box. So you can just start, and I'll read whatever you want. And if you don't see the strength that you feel is important to you, you can just add it. It doesn't have to be just these strengths. Okay, Nancy writes honesty, perseverance, forgiveness, humor, and self-regulation. So Manuela writes creativity, gratitude, honesty, hope, and humility. Excellent. Ismail writes forgiveness, hope, kindness, honesty, and social skills. And Jack writes gratitude, humor, spirituality, kindness, and forgiveness. I mean, these are great. Perfect. Here is Nancy Chin writing gratitude, leadership, humor, teamwork, kindness. Stella writes integrity, leadership, fairness, curiosity. These are all amazing strengths to have. So write them on a piece of paper for yourself to have, because we're going to use those later in the session. So we can continue, Jessica. Next slide, please. I just want to explain to you the difference between, because we're going to use both. What's the difference between skills and strengths? So skills are more things you practice. You know, it could be you're a good painter. That's a skill. And then the strength behind that is creativity. You might be a great pianist, like you play some kind of music. Then the strength behind is musical. So skills are something you do, and strengths are something you are. So you are creative, and you use that character strengths to practice a skill. And so skills is something you have to practice. Sometimes character strengths you can also practice, but as I said before, they could be inborn. They could be part of you from birth. And then there are other character strengths, like, for example, I practice courage, and I got really much more courageous because I decided to practice that. I wasn't born with that character strengths. So but it's important to also know the character strengths that feel natural to us. Those are the strengths that we want to use the most. So do you have any questions? What's the difference between the skills? Maybe next slide will explain a little bit better. Next slide. So if I just take this example, I am creative, that's a strength. I paint paintings, that's a skill. I am adventurous, that's a strength. I can skydive, that's a skill I practiced. I am motivating, that's a strength. I am an excellent football coach, that's a skill. So do you guys see the difference between the two? You can just write yes or no, or if you have any questions in the chat, then I can answer them. So write if you have any questions, and otherwise we can continue.
And at this point, let me stop sharing for just 1 second. Does anybody have any, I like looking at people sometimes and getting that interactivity. Does anybody want to share what's happened so far that might help them with their population that they work with?
So, you know, I think that this is such an important question. And it is about youth. However, how are we in communication with youth is something that I'd like to ask, something I'd like to bring up into this conversation, because it's okay for us to look at ourselves and our values, but how do those values actually relate to youth and our communication to them? So I'd really prefer, if possible, for me to take on the values of communication and how that can be implemented in relevance to youth who have a totally different mindset to what I have as values.
So can I comment on Peter's comment?
Of course.
Yeah, I just, because now I work with youth, and this is kind of the material I teach. It's like I usually, even when I'm teaching the teachers, I usually let them do it on themselves, and then they get to experience it. Now, all these exercises, we can share those slides with you, and then you could basically use those exercises with your young population, whatever. I don't know what is your job or what you do, but I think it's important that we start to focus on the good qualities and bring them forward. And that's been my job since I started working with schools, is that I look for the best in every single student. I look for, what do you have that makes you you? Like, what is special about you? And we can do that with all these kind of tests. We can do personality tests, we can do strength tests, we can do value tests, We can do different kinds of tests. And I think when the young people get to discover that they have actually good qualities within them, and you reinforce it, you bring it forward, I think that's very, very important. So use those exercises that we go through today with your young population, with whoever you're working with.
And Peter, to add to that, one important aspect of what Helga's saying, it's not about taking a test, it's about interactivity. And it's the student who has to struggle with and work with the information, not the adult. There's so much research out there that shows that lectures are not listened to and not effective. But student-centered teaching, if you're talking about the classroom experience, is where it's at. And then even Charlie Munger and I'll think of the other more common business person's name, says that collaborative learning experiences where students are together in teams, that fosters a sense of self-confidence and group growth and personal growth versus being competitive, like being on a football team that may get you so far, but being competitive is not the end all be all when it comes to learning this type of stuff. That collaborative teamwork is where it's at. Do you work with teams, Peter, or go, Helga?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, sorry, I wanted to add just one thing, that one exercise that we're not going to do today, but I just want to suggest it to Peter, is that I take, if I have a class of, let's say 30 students, I will take one student at a time, I'll maybe spread it over many different sessions, where all the other students are supposed to find their strengths. So we put, for let's say Rosa, we put her in the middle, and then everybody in the classroom are supposed to see her strengths and point them out. And in that way, they kind of start to see the goodness in each other and see the good qualities in each other. And I think that's a wonderful exercise. And they feel so empowered afterwards. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, to bring some specificity there. Thank you for bringing this conversation today.
Perfect. Okay, Jessica, maybe you can share the slides again. We have an exercise coming up. I see we are running out of time also. So how do we find our natural strengths and skills? You can.
So we find these strengths and skills in what we're interested in or what we're passionate about. When I was 4, much to my mother's detriment, I started flipping sideways, and I literally would bounce off of my head on the floor. And I did that all around the house. I would do it backwards, forwards, everywhere, running into the furniture, until finally I saw Nadia Comaneci on the TV. I said, that's it. That's what I do. And that was what I was passionate about. And when you're 4, you probably don't hide that very well. And I didn't. So it was the happiest day of my mother's life because she found a gym for me. And I happily spent the next 10 years there. So what are we good at? Now, we may not know what we're good at until we try it a little bit. I discovered that I loved also languages. And so you're not immediately good at a language, but you find that if it's something that is natural to you, you find your ability to get lost in it, or to read it, or to do it dedicatedly, so that you can become good at it. It's what we love to do. And then we often experience it as easy.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some questions. Can you type in the chat something that gets you pumped up, or something that you like to do? Go ahead, Susie, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. So I will not unmute my camera. I will not put my camera, but I will unmute myself. The first question is, what gets you pumped up? For me, generally is, should I answer the questions or just?
Yes.
Okay, for me, generally is new ideas. When I see something new, I'm like, I need to do this, and I must do that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like to do? I love helping others. I really, I love that. What are you good at? What am I good at? Making others feel better. I think I'm good at that. What do others praise you for? My ability to make them feel better by talking to them and let them talk to me. I think that is it. When do people come to you for help? Each time they want to speak to somebody and they can trust that person, that is when they come to me. What quality do you find difficult to tolerate in others? Hypocrites. Really can't tolerate that when you're not honest.
So do you see your strengths behind the answers? Do you see the strengths on everything that you said now? Because I've seen a lot of strengths in you.
Yes.
Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay,
Why don't
what
you
are-
go ahead and highlight them, Helga?
No, I want her to see if she knows them. What are your strengths?
The strength I put in the chat that I have was love, bravery, kindness, leadership, and forgiveness.
Yeah, you have also love of learning and curiosity. I mean, you mentioned that.
Yes.
You said hypocrite. That means that you probably the strength there is honesty. The qualities we find difficult to tolerate in others are usually the qualities that we have in the opposition. So if I can't stand people who are slow, then I am proactive, so it's
Okay.
also opposite. So shall we go ahead, Nancy, Jessica, and put them in groups and let them discuss this and see if they can come up with their own character strengths just for a few minutes?
So we'll put you guys in breakout rooms for a few minutes.
I just wanted to ask you guys if you want to go 10 minutes over. Is that okay?
Yes, no problem.
Is anyone who wants to share which character strengths they discovered during doing this exercise?
Oh, well, the questions that were the other side were a little bit easier, but the first one of what gets me bumped up or what do I like to do? I like advocating for people's rights, especially the women and animals, wildlife animals. That is what I really like to do mainly. And most people really praise me for the leadership goals. I will stand and talk in a group of 1,000 and I will not really be bothered. I will look at them and talk my mind out. And many people come to me for help, usually to share their problems. If somebody has disturbed them, or if they are feeling down, if they're feeling low, if they've lost a loved one, usually I'm the person they come to talk to. I think because I'm so soft-hearted at times. So really, that is it.
Do you see your character strengths?
Yeah, I saw them.
So compassion and social skills, and the need to be doing good. These are fantastic skills to have. So your job, can you see what kind of job would suit you? Your personality?
I am an advocate by profession, so I think
Yes,
it
so
does suit me
you're doing the right job. That's perfect. So this is kind of just to reinforce that you are doing the right job. So I just want you to experience something. I'd like all of you to close your eyes, choose one of your strengths or skills, and just imagine. So close your eyes and imagine, how do you use this one skill? So whether it's love or compassion or curiosity or love or learning, or whatever strength or skill, it can also be a skill. Just choose one and see how you use it in your daily life. Now imagine that you didn't know that you had that strength, or you were not allowed to use it. If you couldn't use that specific strength or skill, how would your life be? Just imagine that. And what did you discover? Does anyone want to share? Does anyone want to share? So Susie, can you unmute?
Yeah.
Yes, for me, the first skills or strength I chose was bravery. And I said, if I couldn't use that, I wouldn't have done anything my whole life. So
Yes.
I can't just not be brave. Like, I can't.
I know. It's amazing. I hope this exercise shows you how important your strengths and skills are, and how important it is that you get to use them. And now imagine that you're in a job where you never get to use those strengths and skills. Like, just imagine that. And now you know why 85% of the population is unhappy. Okay, we continue. I just quickly wanted to see this because this has changed my students' lives. Weaknesses are character strengths in overuse. So behind every weakness, there's a strength. And instead of thinking that you have weaknesses, you can start to think, no, I don't have any weaknesses. I just have strengths in overuse. And just to give you an example, that for example, if I'm a person who let people walk all over me, then I'm using being humble I'm using it too much. I'm being too humble. If I find it difficult to focus and I get easily distracted, I'm using my creativity too much. If for example, I'm busy and stressed and find it difficult to relax, I'm using productivity too much. And it's easier to reduce using your strengths than to think that you have a weakness that you have to fix. So can maybe one of you or two give me an example of one weakness that you have, and I will tell you the strength behind it.
Oh, am I unmuted? Yes,
You're unmuted.
I just typed it in chat. I forgot I was unmuted. Yeah, obviously when I'm doing things or listening to people, I tend to like trying to pour out everything, and I don't need to do that. I need to listen more.
Thank you.
I'm learning it. I'm learning it.
Oh, okay. So I think the strength in overuse is compassion. Any more examples? Maybe one more.
Yes, it's Susie. My own is I always want to do everything perfect. Everything must be perfect. Else
Okay,
it's not.
then your strength in overuse is ambition.
Want to have nothing.
One more example.
I think what I have issues with is when I'm communicating, understanding what other people I'm talking to actually understand. So I don't know to speak too much or too little.
So I didn't get that. So what is your weakness?
That basically when I'm trying to communicate with other people, essentially, I'm never sure if I've said too much or too little.
Oh, I would say the strength in overuse is humble. You were humble. It's humble, compassion. You're kind of just thinking about the people's needs before your own. And so that's being humble. That's great. Okay, so all of you, very good examples. As I said, you will get the slides and you can start to think about this yourself. Any kind of anytime my husband criticizes me, I always think, oh, okay, I'm just using this too much. I'm using my creativity too much. He sometimes says, you can never focus on when I'm talking to you. I say, oh, okay, I'm just using my creativity a little bit too much here. So it's a very different way of looking at things. Anyway, we continue.
There's one more on the chat.
Okay, I can't see the chat, so you have to share with me then.
Okay, it says, I believe that people will follow through on actions which they don't. That's a question.
So what was the question?
Well, it wasn't a question, it's a statement. He goes, I believe that people will follow through on actions, right? But they don't.
Okay, so your strength is believing and trusting. Your strength is trust.
Ah.
Yeah. You trust that people will do what they tell you to do. So your strength in overuse is trust.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. Okay. Now I don't think we have time to do, but maybe give yourself like a couple of minutes just to so you can find your dream job. You kind of worked a little bit now about finding your strengths and skills. I'd like you to think about what you love to do. And maybe you can just write down 2-3 things, what you love to do. And then we have our last exercise, which is basically putting together what we love to do. And we won't be able to put you in breakout rooms again. So we will just leave you with that. But just give you like a minute or so. Just write down on a piece of paper, what do you love to do? And then you can also think about what strengths are behind there. So when you've done that, we can move on to the next exercise. So this is the last exercise today. And because we ran out of time, I think I will leave this for you to take with you home. And like I said, we will be sharing the slides so you get all those questions. And you can use this with your youth as well. And so the final question is, how can I add value to other people's lives, doing what I love to do, using my character strengths and skills? So when you do that, so the first step is always finding your strengths and skills. The second step is finding what you love to do. And then you combine those two things together and you find your dream job. And I've done this exercise with so many people, and it's amazing what they come up with. For the future, if you guys are interested to check if the job you have right now is suitable for your character, you can just do that test. You can just ask yourself, am I using my most important character strengths and skills? And am I doing something that I love to do? And when you have students, if you have students and they are unsure what they want to do with the future, this question is amazing. Just like come up with ideas where you're using most of your character strengths. So the more character strengths you use, the better, and the more skills. And then you add on to that what you love to do. Okay, we will then continue. So we were going to do a breakout room, but we won't have time for that. And I will leave you with this sentence. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. And I kind of just want to leave you with this, saying that all of us have different qualities, skills, and strengths, every single person. And it is if you are working with the youth, it is your job to help them find those. And we are judged how we do in school, and that's really bad because so many of us are not academics and we are not good at sports, but we are good at other things. And it's so important that the young people get opportunity to figure out. And even for you guys who are grown up, it's important for you to get the opportunity to figure out what really is within you and how you can express the genius that lives within all of you. And I kind of want to see if there's any questions before we leave you guys. Do you have any questions? I have a question for you after we're done. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, that's Nancy, right? Thank you.
I don't see any other questions except a lot of thank yous.
Okay.
And thank you,
I
everyone.
hope this can benefit you. And like I said, if you have the slides, I think you will be able to, and you can just read up on character strengths. And there is an online test. I write it in the chat box. It's called VIA Online Character Strength Test. And you can do a test there. And you can actually, if you have students, you can have them do the test themselves. Well, then you guys can just leave us if you don't have any questions, but I'm here. I'm going to stay put if anyone wants to ask me anything.
I want to thank Helga and Jessica, who had to run to another meeting, for this great exercises. This was a lot of fun. It's almost just like a self-awareness for each of us. And we're so busy in life that sometimes we don't think about this. And I thought this was awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the people who visit us from overseas too. Thank you globally.